Hey everybody, my name is Ross. Today's Bible study is titled Belief Before Certainty. And this is not a video for people who feel like they have their faith nailed down. This is for people who are struggling with coming to Christ. It's for that weird middle space where you're leaning toward Christ, but you're not ready to say you trust Him with everything yet. Where belief feels real, but faith feels expensive. So instead of comforting verses everybody already knows, I want to sit with a few quieter ones from the Gospels, the kind where Jesus spoke to people who were curious, confused, hesitant, not the feel-good stuff, just the honest truth. So we're going to be looking a lot at the book of John today. One of our verses will be from Matthew, and I feel one thing I didn't address in my last video that I'm going to throw out to you guys right now. I am a long time, I don't want to use the word sufferer, but I have ADD. So if my Bible studies are kind of all over the place and I'm jumping from verse to verse and book to book, I'm sorry if that confuses some of you. That's just how my brain works. And I like to kind of take each passage and dissect it and think about them individually. It's just how I go. So I hope that appeals to some of you. With that being said, let's jump in. We're going to jump into John chapter 6, verse 29. I am going to be reading from the New King James translation, just so it is easier for everyone to digest. So let's get right into that. So in John chapter 6, verse 29, Jesus answered and said to them, "This is the work of God, that you believe in him whom he sent." And that's it. He's not saying you need to be better. He's not saying clean yourself up first. He's not saying understand everything. He's saying believe. And that's, I think, where a lot of us struggle when we're coming into our faith. A lot of us feel we're not worthy because of what we've done in the past, because of beliefs we may have or have had. And God isn't asking you to have that all figured out. He's asking you to believe and to come to him. And that's one of the things that we struggle with the most when we are a person first coming to Christianity. That feeling of, I don't know if I'm ready yet. And Jesus is saying here, you are ready. Just have to believe. And we got to ask ourselves, what if belief isn't something you achieve? But what if it's something we admit that we're struggling toward? Let's put it into perspective. If we move on, there's a moment early in John where two men start following Jesus, and he turns around to them and he asks a question. And that is John 1:38 through 39. And what Jesus says in 38, he says, "Then Jesus turned, and seeing them following, said to them, 'What do you seek?' They said to him, 'Rabbi, where are you staying?' And he said, 'Come and see.'" So they're not asking for proof of anything. And they're not even asking like a theological question. They just want to know where he stays. And Jesus doesn't explain himself. He doesn't, argue with them about, why are you just asking me this simple question? He just says to them, "Come and see." And to me, what he's saying there is, our faith doesn't have to start with certainty. Our faith has to start with proximity. Proximity to Jesus. Proximity to God. And what if following Jesus doesn't require answers yet? What if it is just honesty about what we're looking for? And that's what Jesus is saying in that passage. He's just saying, be honest about what you're looking for. Not certain. It's hard sometimes. It's hard when you're first admitting to yourself that this is what you need. It's hard admitting to yourself that this is what you believe, especially if you have been a secular-minded person the majority of your life that looks at things logically and questions everything. It's very hard to admit that, but that's all Jesus is asking. He's just asking you to come near and believe. And having doubt, that's not disqualifying you. It's not disqualifying you from God's love. It's not disqualifying you from salvation. In Mark chapter 9, verse 23 and 24, we kind of see that. In what we have here is we have a father in this verse who he's struggling with his belief. He's struggling with his belief. We have a father, he's trying to bring his child to Jesus to heal him, and he's struggling with the belief, right? He believes, but he doesn't believe. And in verse 23 in Mark 9, Jesus said to him, "If you can believe, all things are possible to him who believes." Immediately the father of the child cried out and said with tears, "Lord, I believe, help my unbelief." Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief. And that might be the most honest prayer in the Bible. I believe, I don't believe. Please help, God. I have been there. I have been there more times than I care to admit. I've mentioned before that I had a very hard fought battle of becoming a Christian. And there were many nights when I was on my knees yelling this. I believe, I don't believe, God help me. And Jesus didn't reject him for that. And Jesus didn't reject me for that. Which tells me that doubt isn't the opposite of faith. Pretending might be. But if you're waiting to come to Christ until your doubt disappears, he's inviting you to bring it with you. He's inviting you to bring it with you. Have faith, and your questions will be answered. I can't put it much more plainly. You have to have that faith, and you have to put it in Jesus. And once you do, those questions that we've had, those doubts that we've had, they get answered. And he will provide clarity. It's crazy to hear, I know, and we've heard it so many times through our lives, those of us who are struggling with coming to faith, right? You hear these people on TV, you see these people on the internet, and they talk about, oh, all things are answered through Christ, and you just have to have faith. And it's true what they're saying, but that's a hard thing to wrap your head around when you're somebody who questions everything. And to have this faith it's a surreal thing to us, because there are those of us who have never really had faith in anything. And to put all of our faith into one thing is the hardest thing that we've ever been asked to do. But doing that will be the best thing you ever did. And I'm not trying to sound cliche, but speaking as somebody who has had that personal experience, once I put my faith in Christ, my life changed. Questions were answered, and things started to open up in my mind. And that's an amazing place to be. But there's points in this transition where we have to reflect on some things, on our own beliefs and our own doings. And in John 3, we get into this a little bit. And in John 3:20 and 21, we talked about light being uncomfortable in the last video. And here we have in 3:20 and 3:21 in John. For everyone practicing evil hates the light and does not come to the light, lest his deeds should be exposed. But he who does the truth comes to the light, that his deeds may be clearly seen, and they have been done in God. Coming to the light doesn't mean that you're fixed. It means you stop hiding. And again, that's a rough one for some of us. And understanding that faith doesn't start with transformation, it starts with exposure. And then we got to ask ourselves, is it faith that we're avoiding, or is it being seen honestly? How hard is it going to be when we start walking and living honestly? I apologize if the camera just shook there a little bit. My cat just jumped off the table. How hard is it going to be when we start walking and living honestly? It's rough. To answer that question, it's rough. It's hard. It's hard, especially if you've been the type of person that has been critical of these things before, has been critical of Christianity before, and now all of a sudden you find yourself defending it, trying to live in a way that pleases God. And there's going to be people that are going to look at you and think that it's just a phase. There's going to be people that are going to look at you and think that, wow, something really messed up must have happened in their life, because now they're coming to Jesus. Something really, oh man, they must have done something, because now they're finding Jesus. Maybe we did. Maybe we didn't. That's nobody's business but God's. And God says he will forgive you if that is the reason you are coming to Christ. But we can't hide in the dark and not face the truth. We can't come to Christ and still deny Christ at the same time. And those of you who are struggling right now know exactly what I am saying when I say that. And that brings us to our next verse, and that is John 6, chapter 6, verses 67 and 69. You can't come to Christ and also deny Christ at the same time. So we can't cherry pick what parts of Christianity we are going to abide by and which parts we are just going to let slide. And I'm not talking about the hot topic issues either. I'm talking about your personal life, your personal walk. You can't choose what sins you're going to keep committing and justify somehow that this one's small, this is okay, God's not going to punish me for this. If you're going to come to Christ, it's a life-changing experience. And there are sins and things that you may do and ways that you live that you're going to have to reconcile. And it's okay. It's okay. You're not giving up on the person you were. You're not selling out. You're completing yourself. In chapter 6, verses 67 and 69, people are starting to walk away from Jesus. People who followed Jesus originally are starting to walk away from him because the walk is too hard, because they are having to come to the light, and they are having to ask themselves the hard questions, and they are having to start living in ways that they hadn't lived before. And so Jesus says to the 12 that are left, do you also want to go away? But Simon Peter answered him, Lord, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life. Also, we have come to believe and know that you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. So notice that Peter doesn't say he doesn't say he understands everything. He just knows there's nowhere else to stand. And you're there right now. I know some of you are. And I was there. You don't understand everything, but you know there's nowhere else that you should be. And sometimes faith begins not because everything makes sense, but because everything else falls apart. And that doesn't mean that you're coming to Jesus for the wrong reasons. You are coming to him for the absolute right reasons. And so ask yourself, if you walked away, where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? You're going to go back to the same place that you've been, that wasn't working, where you are stuck in the same cycle and doing the same things and making the same bad choices, falling into the same dark places, grappling with the same internal issues that you have grappled with, anger and depression. I've been there. I get it. It's terrible. But where are you going to go? We're just going to sit here and keep doing the same thing we've been doing over and over and over again, and it's not working. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results? That was me for a long time, and that's you. Some of you, that is you. And it's okay if you're coming to Christ slowly, awkwardly, honestly. You're not late, and you're not broken. You're exactly where a lot of people in the Gospels started. You are in the same place where so many of the people that are in this book were in. And belief doesn't demand certainty. It just asks us to stop pretending we don't hear him calling. Just stop pretending that we don't hear him calling. I hope this helped some of you today. If it did, drop a comment. And if you want to continue this conversation, drop a comment. I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas. I hope you all get to spend time with your family and celebrate the birth of Christ and what that means. And I hope to do this again soon. I appreciate you guys.